was a Philosia question the other day, which was, has anyone close to you ever died, and if so, how did you respond to that? How did it make you feel? And it just happens to be very coincidental that that would be the question right now in FMK when personally I'm dealing with somebody who's passing away right now. In fact, I expected them to already be passed away yesterday, and they're still, this is my maternal grandmother. This is my last living grandmother, and we've been expecting her to be passed away for several days now. She's no longer eating, drinking, or really very much sleeping. She's kind of fading in and out, and when she's out, her body goes into small seizures, and then it wakes her up, and so she hasn't been able to sleep much. She's not eating, she's not drinking, she can barely breathe. She's got oxygen, but her lungs are full of fluid and heavy, and the medical people are telling us that they expect her heart to stop any time. And so for me, this is a very relevant question right now. And when I got the call the other day, see, my maternal grandmother lives in Oregon. That's where my mom lives, and my dad, my brother, and one of my uncles, one of my aunts. My family's kind of spread all over the place, and so Oregon was one of the places my family extended to, and that's where I grew up. But in any case, so my brother messaged me the other day. He said that our grandma is dying, and if I want to say anything to her, any last thing to her, now is the time. So I phoned, and he put me on speakerphone, and I tried to talk to her, and I really kind of fumbled up well, I didn't know what to say. It's really hard to I find it really difficult, and this is not the only person who's been dying that I've been around. It's just the most recent. The community that I live in now is a relatively tight-knit community. It's like one giant extended family. Everybody's related to everybody else. This is the Blood Tribe of Alberta, and so every year since I live here, there's been somebody that I've known fairly closely that is passing. So, death is not unfamiliar territory to me at this point. I think my first experiences with death is much like everybody else's that's been giving testimonies from FMK, which is in high school, somebody that you knew pass away. That's a lot of times people's now in North America, their first experience with death is somebody in high school, a sudden death. But my real first close experience with death was my paternal grandmother, and she got sick with a lung cancer. Same time I got my driver's license, and so I would take her around to her medical appointments and all of that, and her treatments, and pretty much got to witness the whole thing until it got really bad. I had one exposure day to the really, really bad, when she was completely out of it, and there was a tumor sticking out of her head like a horn, and she didn't know where she was and who was who, and she thought I was somebody else, and that was when it was really, really bad. And then my aunts and my mom from that point on shielded it for me. It wasn't too much longer after that she passed, and she went into a coma before she passed away. But things are different with my maternal grandmother, who's passing away right now, because she's it's not a cancer or anything like that. She's just very old, and she's shutting down, and she's hanging on. She's trying to, she knows she's going, and she says she's getting tired, but I think this is probably the case. Maybe I project it, but I think everything that's alive wants to continue living. And in my spiritual practice, in my belief system, which is an indigenous Blackfoot, that's what we believe in life. We try everything to keep life persisting, and we don't pay much attention to death, because that's something that we really don't have. There's no theory about what happens after death, that kind of thing, and there's no heaven and hell and that kind of thing in the Blackfoot belief system. And whatever happens after death, we don't even bother ourselves with, because we'll know that soon enough. But right now we're living it, so we try to keep living. And I see this with animals too, where critically injured animal, we'll just try to stay alive. And there's a kind of noble bravery in the way that some animals will face death. Even in the hands of the predator, where they'll just go open-eyed and face forward into it. Not necessarily fighting, but just facing it. And once you know that death has you, stop fighting and stop denying and face it. And that's what I see my grandma doing right now. She's in a position now where she knows that death has her. She's not fighting. Not like she's not sorry for herself. She's not struggling with it. But she wants to continue, to breathe and for her heart to beat for as long as possible. So, like I said, we thought she would be gone already. She's lived a couple more days now. And to me, even a day is a real gift. One of the things that I do in my life is I try to help animals that are injured. And most of them, most animals that are seriously injured, you can't save them. Even if you could, a lot of times they'll die from the shock of being with that close to people, being handled by people. They go into a shock and they'll die from it. But some of them you can save. But even if you can't, if I'm able to give an animal If there's a potential that I can save it, I'll try to save it. And if I'm able to give it an extra few days or whatever, to me that's a gift. Because again, for me it's all about the life and the persistence of life. So if you can live a few more days, because you don't need to rush to death, it's gonna happen. You got a long time for that. You don't have to worry about rushing to death. So try to stay alive and experience that, what you're gonna go through. Like, I can't even imagine being in the seat what my grandma's in right now, which is why when I was phoned to try to talk to her, I had no idea what to say. So I told her, like, if I was smart, I would have said, I love you and miss you, but what I talked to her about was really mundane things, what I was doing that day, and then I asked her, how she's feeling. What I really want to ask her is, what is he like? But I just couldn't. I was having a hard time, like even like now, as I recount it, I'm getting choked up. I have a hard time talking about it, and when I was speaking to her, it was very close to not being able to talk at all. And I don't want to do that to her, because I feel like when somebody's on the deathbed, that's their time, and you're there for them. You're not there for you. So if you're getting all upset and stuff, it's gonna make them feel upset. Because even if somebody's not dying, if I see somebody close to me getting very choked up, crying, they can't hold it back. Yeah, a lot of times it make me get choked up too, make me get sad, and I don't think that's right to do to somebody that's dying. I think it's more appropriate for if you're there with somebody on their deathbed, that it's their time and you're there for them, and you go through the experience whatever way they're going to take you through that. So I didn't want to do that for my grandma, so I just talked to her like I normally would on any given day. And she told me she was sorry. Almost like, it sounds like you're having a wonderful day. I'm so sorry to wreck your day by dying. So, and after that, I just couldn't say anything more to her. So, then my brother took me off speakerphone, and I tried to talk to my mom for a little bit. For me, the thing about death of somebody close, the thing that chokes me up in the way that it's choking me up right now as I'm talking, I'm getting choked up. The thing that really affects me is not loss. It's not fear. It's not sadness. For me, I think what it is just the power of it. Life is very powerful, and when I see it, when life really hits me, say somebody's being born, or I see a real good example, I witness a really striking example of love, or somebody's accomplishment. Somebody accomplishing something in their life that's really big for them. Or somebody passing away. All of these circumstances bring out the same, it's the same feeling for me, which is, it's like I said, it's nothing bad. It's just very powerful, and I get overwhelmed. I can even see something. It has nothing to do with me. It doesn't even have to be, anybody that's close to me. It doesn't even have to be a human being. It could be an animal, plant. I witness something happen with them, and I get that little glimpse of the power of life, and that's when I get overwhelmed. It's almost like being overwhelmed with the beauty of it. These are the intense moments of our life. Really, in a way, kind of peak experiences. And if you're lucky enough to be with somebody on their deathbed, in a sense, it's like it's a gift they're giving you to be in that kind of an intense experience. So that's how death has always affected me. There was only one time when I really felt loss. I think if somebody like my wife or my daughter, who I'm around every day, who live with me, if they were to pass, then I would feel lost, because I'm used to being with them every day, and then they're not there. That kind of separation thing. Then you feel lost. But in this case, I got to spend a lot of time with my grandmother in some of the best years of her life, and I got no regrets about the time that I spent with her. But I don't think when she passes that I'll feel lost, because I'm not around her all the time now. I was glad that she got to meet my family, my daughter, spend time with my daughter. She had a good life. And I think a person would be lucky to live as long as she has, and be going out the way that she is. So, but there was a time when I lost a son who wasn't born yet. My wife had the pregnancy was ectopic and had to be removed, emergency. And that one was actually probably the hardest death for me, because that one you really do feel lost, because you would think that an unborn child wouldn't be that much of a grieving, but in fact it's the thing that the things you didn't get to do that's really hard. And in this case, I never even got to meet that. Knowing that was hard. So there are different kinds, I think, of I mean, death is death, but depending on the proximity of the person to you, like how close they are to you all the time, and depending on what your history of experience with them, because somebody dies and you didn't get to do the things with them that you should have had the chance to do, then it's really hard. Yeah, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to lose a child after you've been living with the child for so many years, and then they pass suddenly for an accident or something. That must be completely devastating. But for the most part, I mean, even at that, when something like that happens, then I turn to spirituality to try to make myself comfortable with it. I ultimately do become comfortable with it. But the average person that is part of my life that passes, I don't see it as a terrible tragedy. It's just part of our life, and in fact, rather than a tragedy, it is, like I'm saying, in a sense, it's almost a gift, because it brings you into intense encounter with the power of life. Life is very powerful. So I'm grateful to my grandmother right now. She has a lot of people that she's bonded to. She has 7 children. One of them has passed. Now she has 6 children out there, and 6 children, all of whom have families with children and grandchildren. She's got a lot of great-grandchildren, and she took the time out of her life to make sure she knew everybody. Everybody knew her and spent time with her. So in that, right now, she's given us all this gift of being a part of this, her time.